Hey there, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. My name is Daniel Trinham, and I will be your host as always. Before we get started with today's episode, I want to let you know of a few things of note. First, you may or may not be aware that I host another podcast called The Third Seat. The Third Seat is unrelated to the podcast you are listening to right now, but if you'd like to check it out, then I will put a link in the description of today's episode that you can use to listen to it. If you like this podcast, then I really think you will like The Third Seat as well, so I highly recommend you check it out. Next, I want to let you know of a few ways you can support the podcast. First, be sure to tell a friend if you enjoy the show. Word of mouth is not only a great way to help support the show, but it's also zero cost. Secondly, if you enjoyed today's episode, then be sure to leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Leaving a positive review is one of the best ways of not only supporting the show, but it also gives me direct feedback from you regarding how you feel about the show overall. I greatly appreciate if you decide to take the time to support the show in any of these ways. Finally, if you'd like to follow me or the show on social media, then feel free to check out the description of today's episode. Here you will find all affiliated and mentioned links, as well as how you can support the show online. As always, I want to thank you for tuning into and supporting the show. It really means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Daniel Trinham. I'm going to be your host for this episode as always. And I'm glad you decided to join us for another episode on the podcast. Today, I have a really special guest that I'm excited to talk to for a little bit of context on how I came into contact with this person and how I became aware of them. Let's see, I guess it was maybe about a year ago. I don't know, roughly or so. But my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, she lives over in the Red Bank area, which if you're not familiar is kind of like a suburb, a small city outside of Chattanooga. And one night we're like, hey, let's go get some food at this restaurant we were wanting to check out the other day. So like, okay. So we get on the main road, we're driving, going. It's maybe like 7 or 8 at night, something like that. And we're going. We finally come upon the restaurant and they're closed, or they're like 5 minutes from closing. Like we don't want to be those people that walk in right at the end. So we just we decided, okay, we'll find somewhere else. And we turned around and started going the other way, and we saw this kind of small little pizza shop that we'd never seen or heard of before. And we're like, what's this? This place looks interesting. Let's go check it out. And since then, we have gone back multiple times. I've had the most unique pizzas I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm not just saying this because you're right in front of me, but genuinely, it's become my favorite pizza in the whole Chattanooga area. I love going there. I love trying out the new ones you all have, the new additions to the menu. And so with that, it's my pleasure to have one of the owners here on the show with me today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So for those that aren't aware, just tell a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. My name's Justin Bennett. I am the owner of Pizzeria Cortile in Red Bank, Tennessee. We've been there for about 5 years now. Started with a local slice food truck in 2012, ran that for about 5 years, and then we decided it's time to grow some roots a little deeper. Yeah. And I'm a Red Bank guy. I went to high school there. I grew up there.
So you're from Red Bank?
I Chattanooga born and raised. I've been here my whole life. So my family, we kind of bounced around the area for a little bit as a child, and then we started. My parents put us in a little private school over in Hickson, and we were living up in Sail Creek. And they were like, "This is too far of a drive." We were playing sports, and it was like, "What do we do in the meantime when you go off of school?" And then what do we do? So we found a place in Red Bank, and been there ever since. So I was like 12 or so. Yeah. I love it there. We bought a house there right before we got married. My wife bought a house. We lived there for a while. Had this idea for something. I was kind of in a place in my life where I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do. Food had always been like a love and passion of mine, but I didn't really ever see that as an avenue to a career. Yeah. Like it seemed like it was
also that's a tough industry.
Yeah. I mean, to try and raise a family and also run a restaurant, that seemed like a lot. And, but yeah, I was getting married. My wife had a house. We went on our honeymoon and came back, and my parents had our wedding gift from my parents was basically a brand new backyard. So they redid the deck, put a big fireplace in the back, and just like made a super cool hangout space. Yeah. And the icing on the cake was a little tiny wood-fired oven. Yeah. And so I was in this point in my life where I was going like, what am I doing? I'm about to get married. I don't really have a career path. And then things just kind of started falling in place. So my uncle owns a bakery up in Monteagle, and they used to use a giant wood-fired oven. It was like 8 feet long and 4 feet wide. It was huge to bake all the bread. So he was looking for someone to come and fill a position there. And I was like, that seems pretty cool. Yeah. I love baking. I love food. Yeah. Fire is one of my favorite things.
Yeah. So, I'm sure you got a nice discount maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The free loaf of bread at the end of the day was always nice. It was a nice treat on my way back from Monteagle. So I got a job working for him. Yeah. My parents had redid our backyard, and it was like, oh, maybe wood-fired cooking is in line here. So started working with Scott at the Bread Peddler, which is the name of his bakery.
Is that here in town?
It's not. It's like 45 minutes, I guess, towards like Nashville.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say, I don't recognize that.
Yeah. And they service. I mean, he makes some incredible bread. Mm-hmm. I mean, like he is a talented, hardworking guy, devoted to what he does. Yeah. And so working with him just kind of put me in that same mindset of like there's passion behind what we're doing. So working with him and kind of figuring out that this is maybe where we're going to go. You know, this is what I'm going to do. I wanted to open a bakery. I wanted to do what they did in Red Bank. I thought that would be super cool. Yeah. And then I started looking at the numbers, and I was like, there's no way we can afford to do anything like that. Yeah. They operate like out of their garage. Yeah. So they've rebuilt their garage, and so they did it on the cheap, and they've done a really good job of it.
Do they have a physical place like a physical location?
They don't. No. So they service some restaurants close to them, and they sell at the Piggly Wiggly and a few other markets up there. Oh, so they just like they have done a great job of servicing their community, which is a beautiful thing. I'd love to see a business that goes, we don't care about growth. We want to service the community we're in. And so working with him and kind of learning those techniques and kind of learning that passion about like, there's a community here and you can be a part of it. Yeah. Like that's a cool thing. Yeah. So I took a lot away from that job working with him. I worked for him for maybe a year. And then I was like, okay, we're not doing a bakery. I love pizza. Food trucks are super hot. I mean, it was like everybody that was going to get into the food industry was doing a food truck. So I was like, this seems natural. Yeah. But how do we put a wood-fired oven on a food truck? So that was like...
First find the vehicle.
Yeah,
then we're going to put an 800-degree
exactly. Yeah. That weighs a tremendous amount of weight. So how are we going to do that on the in a truck? So, we just kind of started doing some research, found some guys out in Denver with a truck called Basic Needs Pizza, and they were doing exactly what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I thought it was the coolest thing. I called them. I was like, how did you guys do this? We talked a lot about it. And then decided to pull the trigger, found a truck. Before that, I got a little ahead of myself. Before that, we kind of made this decision to do the pizza thing. Started making pizzas in our backyard. We were having friends over, family. I mean, we were just having parties all the time. Yeah. I mean, it was a good time.
Y'all were the pizza people.
Yeah. I mean, everybody came over on Friday night. We just throw down and make a bunch of pizzas, and it was so much fun hanging out in the backyard. And I mean, just all the lessons I learned just from trying to feed that amount of people all by myself with that tiny little oven. Yeah. There were a lot of learning curves there.
I'm sure.
So we took that kind of party aspect, and we were what can we do with this to kind of help push our business forward? Because I was like, I don't want to sit around and wait. So I started a Facebook page for Local Slice, and started selling pizzas from our backyard. So I would basically say, here's the menu for the week. You order through the week. Yeah. You pick up at a certain time that you tell me you need it on Saturday. Yeah. And that went gangbusters. It was nuts, man. We started making pizzas again for friends and family. They're like, oh, you're selling these on Saturdays? Great, I'll buy one. Yeah. And we started selling them to like friends and church people, and then a neighbor who I didn't know showed up at my door, and then strangers were coming around.
Y'all are the pizza people,
right? He was like, I see the smoke coming up from my backyard. I got to come over and check it out. So, it was crazy. It was like the first month or so that we did it, it was all friends and family, and then just like that, it was like random people coming into my yard to buy pizza.
Yeah,
and I'm going, oh, okay, we're on to something. We're doing it right. We're starting small. We are absolutely starting with nothing here, and so I love the process of things, like building and committing to just like, I'm going to start it, I'm going to finish it. And so that whole process of selling pizzas in the backyard and making a little money doing it. We were like, we've got a little bit of cash now. We went and bought a food truck that was, I mean, it was just an old empty bread truck. We drove down to Daphne, Alabama, which is like somewhere on the coast, and bought the truck, drove it back, and started building an oven in it. So my other uncle, Andy, has a ton of experience building wood-fired ovens. He worked with a guy who was like the oven builder. He's from Australia. He came to the U.S. and like put on these classes, and he's got a great book. I'm going to blank on the name of it now, but it's all about baking and wood-fired ovens and wood-fired cookery. And, so Andy like latched onto this guy and worked a lot with him, and kind of trained under him on how to build ovens. So I was like, one uncle taught me how to bake, the other one's going to build my oven, and then it just kind of all came together. So he came down, he was in North Carolina at the time, he came down for a couple weeks and stayed with me and built the oven on the truck, and then I just outfitted it myself and hit the streets. So we started, the first day in the food truck was December 13th, 2012. And then accidentally, 5 years later, we opened the restaurant on December 13th, 2017, I think. Yeah. So it was like at the day we were opening, I was like, wait a minute. I think this is the day we opened the food truck. And I looked back and I was like, holy cow, this is crazy. It was meant to be. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that was like, it's almost like God affirming like everything I've built up to, all this hard work that we put into it, and the kind of the struggle of running the food truck. I mean, because that is a hard business. People that are still running their food trucks that I was working with back in the day, I have a ton of respect for those people, because that is a hard business to be in, looking for your next place, looking for a good something that's going to be what you expect it to be, and not just fall flat. You know, that's the game of the food truck, is trying to kind of figure out like, what are we going to do next? And so so we did that for a long time, and struggled a lot with it. Went to the Chattanooga market, we kind of refocused what we were doing, realized that taking the food truck out to people was a lot of hard work and not a lot of money in it. So we started doing a lot of catering in our last couple of years, and that allowed me to go, okay, I'm going to do these 4 or 5 events in the month, and then the rest of the time we're going to build a restaurant. So
now at this time, were you all, because I know you just said there's not a lot of money, and I would imagine so because the benefit of a food truck is like you can take it anywhere, obviously, and there's not like a ton of overhead like compared to a building.
Sure,
But then again, at the same time, like it's not a cheap thing to do. I would imagine like at that time, were you all just basically, I would imagine the benefit was more people now knew who you were.
Oh yeah,
rather
absolutely.
Than like, oh, we're funding this next project.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah. When I opened the food truck and we started doing it, I was like, okay, this is fun. But we need a restaurant. And everywhere we'd go, people were like, oh, this is great. Where's your restaurant? Where can we find you on a regular basis? And I'm like, you can't. We don't have one of those. We just do what we do. So it became a focus kind of right off the bat that this is interim, this is meantime. We're going to work towards a goal, and to see that now 10 years later and go, oh, we did it. This is great, and it's running awesome. I'm so thankful, and I couldn't be more grateful for the way things kind of have worked out, and the way we operate now is pretty crazy. So
and it sounds to me kind of like you all kind of just fell into this to a degree. Like,
a little bit.
Not that there was no effort on your end, but all of this may not have happened if it wasn't for, you say it was your family that helped outfit your backyard and gave you this oven. Like if that wasn't there, this may not exist.
What would we be doing? Absolutely. Yeah. It's crazy to look back in my life, over my life. I feel like my entire life, every decision I've made has like kind of led one step to the other without me even realizing what was going on. I feel like I was really directed into where we are now, and my wife gets mad at me all the time because I'm like, I don't feel like I deserve what we have. I don't feel like I've earned it. It doesn't feel like work enough for me to go, oh man, I've worked really hard.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it the
Yeah.
last 10 years. I mean, it's been an incredible journey to kind of just see it all fall into place.
Yeah.
I don't give myself enough credit for making those things happen, but I'm fine with that. I mean, the people around me, the staff we have at the restaurant, the neighborhood around us, I give all of the credit to people who have supported us along the way and gone, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times, and this may be a little mushy, but like this is genuinely how I feel. Like I think a lot of times people can tell when a restaurant doesn't. You can tell when a restaurant, not even just a restaurant, like any kind of business, when there's no like human behind it, you know, like this is the best example I can think of, and there's no shade to this company, but like you walk into like a Subway, you know, no shade to Subway,
yeah, sure,
but like you walk in there and you're not expecting just like the warm embrace of like the nicest people and just like the greatest like kind of environment. Like no, you want a cheap sandwich.
Yes.
That's what you
I'm here for food.
Yeah,
give it to me later.
And 90% of the time, that's what you get, and you're good to go, and you leave.
Yeah.
To me, like I can tell just by hearing you talk about it and just watching your body language, like you want to make money and to provide for your family and do what you have to do, but it doesn't just stop there. Like I could even tell when I first came in there, the kind of general vibe I got from the building as a whole reminded me of the old show Cheers. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Because like I didn't watch that show a lot growing up, but I'd seen one of my friends watched it a lot, and I would see it every now and then. It was like everybody would walk in and be like, "Hey,
hey,
like,
Norm's here." Yeah.
And like I remember walking in, and it's not a huge building. Like there's outdoor seating and there's indoor, and we initially sat down inside the first time, but I was like, this place is. I feel like I'm just like with my friends here. Like I don't know any of these people here, but like our waiter was really nice. He was funny. He was cracking jokes with us, and I was like, I want to come back here. This is fun, you know?
For sure.
And so, like, to me, I think people can see that very easily. I think people can see through when a business is just there to simply make money.
Yeah.
But I think they can also see when a business is there, whether it's a restaurant or any other kind of corporation, when they're wanting to make money and provide, but they also want to be a part
There's
of
a bigger
the community.
picture. Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's really cool because Red Bank specifically. If you're listening to this and you're not from Red Bank, I don't know what to tell you, but it's
come a long way.
Yeah. But it's an interesting place because it's right outside Chattanooga. Like it literally is separated by a small
by a tunnel. Yeah,
that is it.
Yeah.
And it's not like a huge place, but you can definitely tell just by going in that area and kind of going in the downtown area, quote unquote, like you can tell it is a community. There's a neighborhood. There's a lot of community involvement in that area.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really cool that's one of the pillars of like what you all try to do. You're not just here serving out pizzas that are good and people are like, oh yeah, those pizzas are pretty good. You want to be a part of this community and be an active part in the people's lives that live in the Red Bank and Chattanooga area.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. I remember too, the first time we walked in, I've been to there's lots of great pizza places here in Chattanooga, but specifically whenever I walked in the first time to Pizzeria Cortile, I was like, this oven is really big. This is a really cool oven. And I was watching people like throw it in there and then bring it back out. I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, I don't know. I was just really struck by it, and I thought it was really interesting. So I think you all are doing great things over there, and not, specifically regarding the pizzas. I genuinely think the pizzas are phenomenal. Like I love them. And I think aside from just the product you all serve, I think you do a great job of providing people a little bit of like an escape. Sure. People go to restaurants, they don't just want to be served food. They want to have a good time. They want to have a good atmosphere and feel like they're having a little bit of time away from the general, day-to-day of life.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so much more to a meal than the food or the sustenance that you get from it. I mean, like when people come into our restaurant, a couple of years ago, we did a Kickstarter video or a campaign when we were opening the restaurant to raise money for the oven. We raised, I think, a little over $12,000 to buy the oven, which came from Naples, Italy. It's a super cool oven. I love that thing.
I imagine transporting that thing from
there's a guy in California that imports them, so he's kind of got like a warehouse full of them. So it shipped from California to us on like a flatbed trailer, and then I was the one responsible for taking it off with the forklift and setting it in place. That was a nerve-wracking day.
I'm sure.
But in that Kickstarter video, I say something to the effect of, I want this place to be a place for the community, for the neighbors, where you can come in and you're like, oh, there's George over there. Right? Yeah, it's my neighbor. What's up, George? How are you?
Yeah.
And recently I've seen that happen over and over and over. And it makes me so happy that we can be a place in the middle of a town that kind of struggled for a while to be anything cool. That we can be a place for the community to come and hang out and see their neighbors and meet their neighbors. And we don't have any TVs. We try and play music that we like, that people like, that makes you feel comfortable. We don't have a ton of decorations. We don't have things all over the wall. It's just kind of a blank canvas of white and wood. And that was pretty intentional to make it kind of say a safe place, if you will, for anyone to come and feel comfortable in their setting. And, if you've got good company and your server's doing great and then the food's good on top of that, I mean, that's a recipe for success. So I'm so happy that those things happen now, what makes me even more happy is they don't have to happen under my thumb. We've got Eric Garcia is our chef de cuisine, and Brittany Scarborough is our kind of restaurant manager, and they do such a good job of running that place like I'm there running it. They've both been with us since the beginning. Eric was our first dishwasher. He was my first employee that I hired for the restaurant. He lived up the hill. His dad supplied me the firewood, and he came down. He was like 16 at the time, knocked on the door. I was like, hey, man, I want to apply for a job. I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm still building this place, but I'll hire you as a dishwasher, promise.
That's funny.
And now he's literally running the show. I mean, he's coming up with Sunday dinner specials. He's coming up with pizza specials. I mean, we talk a lot about all those things, but to be able to take a kid who had zero interest in cooking and help him find a way and find a place to really just be creative and let people see what he can do and how he can do it is just the best thing in the world for me.
Awesome.
I'm so proud of him, and Brittany as well, who runs the front of house. She was one of our original servers, and she's stuck with us for a long time. She's a great server. And recently we've had some changes go on, and I was like, I think it's time for Brittany to fill this role. And so we talked a lot about it, and she was like, yeah, I think I can do it. She started the job and was like, this is so much more than I expected it to be. I don't know if I can do it. I was like, Brittany, you've got it. You can do it. And she has, man. She's taken it and run with it. So to be able to like just show people like, this is how we serve, this is how we help, this is what we do for people. It is our mission to serve people. And for them to take that and run with it in their lanes and put their spin on it is a really cool thing to see and be a part of, for sure.
Well, it definitely shows in regard to, that's interesting about what was the guy's name? Eric? The story you share with him, because like, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with like someone showing up to a job purely to get a paycheck and make ends meet, and like that's perfectly fine. But I think you can definitely tell when someone is excited about what they do and is happy to be there and is doing whatever it is that they do with a good attitude and is happy to help. And I really do think that emanates a lot through what you all do. Like again, the first time I ever went there, it just felt like, I don't know what it was. It just felt like I was being kind of embraced into this little like group of friends.
Hey, you're here. You're our pal. Yeah.
It was really cool. And, something I thought was really interesting as well, as you mentioned, it was whenever I started kind of following along with what you all do, whenever I saw that you all do Sunday dinners, I was like, that's an interesting idea. You're a pizza place, and like primarily what you serve is pizza, and you got a few other things that you do along with it that are in a similar style. But then just randomly, it's like, hey, we're having, like the first, I don't know why I remember this, but I remember the first time I was there, I think you all were serving like barbecue sandwiches. And I was like, did I come? I was like, what are they serving barbecue sandwiches for? I was like, this is a pizza place.
Because we want to.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
I was like, that's really interesting, because you wouldn't see that anywhere else. Like again, any other restaurant, it's like they're going to do what they do and maybe a few other things to kind of, support that, like, a few other small things if you're feeling this or feeling that. But I was like, that's really cool. Like that's really interesting that they not only serve other items, so like maybe you don't want pizza, it's okay, we've got a chicken sandwich for you, but also it's in the theme of, okay, we're all going to come together for dinner together on Sunday evenings. I just think that's really cool, and I think it aids to this whole idea behind it feels like a group of friends or a family kind of getting together and sharing a meal together. I just think that's really cool, and I don't know, it's really interesting, and something I think is very unique because
Yeah.
there's a lot of great restaurants here in Chattanooga, and I will be the first person to sing their praises. But genuinely, I'm not just saying this because it's right in front of me. Like, this is one of the few restaurants where I think when you walk in, you don't feel like you're walking into a business or a place where business is done.
Yeah.
You're walking into like, oh, these are my friends that are here.
Yeah, it's more than just commerce.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Sunday dinner that's been such a fun another one of those things where I'm like, I definitely worked hard to do this, to make it work and to make it into what it is today. But I just had so much fun doing it that it was like, why wouldn't we do this? So the way that kind of started was we had wanted to expand the menu into more than just pizza and wings and kind of what we did. But I was nervous to do it. Pizza is what I knew. It's what I knew how to do. I was good at it. And then I was asked to cook at the Scenic City Supper Club with the Neals, Eric and Amanda Neal. Used to run that pre-COVID, pre-lockdown. And that was such a cool event. I loved it. Seeing Chattanooga kind of come out and enforce 150, 200 people in this fine dining setting in random places. I mean, that's so much what we do at Cortile. I mean, like kind of off the wall, you don't expect it. And for them to pull off like fine dining experience in locations you wouldn't expect was super cool. So they asked me to cook for one of those, and I did smoked pork ragu with handmade pasta for 150 people. And so we did that event, and it went so well. Everyone was so supportive and talked so well about our food and the product that we make or that we brought. It inspired me a little bit to go, okay, if we can do this at a large scale, off campus, off site, prepare everything and take it with us, why can't we do it in the restaurant? I can do this. So that event for me, I'm so thankful for their graciousness to let me come and do that, because it opened my eyes to I can do these things. I am able. I have accomplished this so far. Let's keep moving and keep pushing. And so the next Sunday we came back to the restaurant, and I was like, let's do it. So we did our first Sunday dinner was the same dish that we did at Scenic City Supper Club. Was that pork ragu, which was on the menu last week. It was Eric's version.
Really?
I didn't touch it. He did it all. He made all of it, which was great. So that kind of launched us into it, and it was like, okay, now we're doing it. We got to keep it up. And so for about a year, I was kind of just doing it myself. And I've learned to be organized. I didn't used to be a very organized person. So Sunday dinner, a lot of times it was like Sunday morning, and I was going, okay, what do we have in the walk-in that we can throw together to make something? And it always hit. It was always good. I feel lucky that I didn't screw something up royally and go, oh, we can't do Sunday dinner this time. There was one time where we tried to make spinach pasta, and it was like, oops. It was just a wet mess. There was no saving it. And I was like, I think we're going to have to cancel. So we canceled one, but it's been great. We've had a couple other chefs kind of come through and put their spin on Sunday dinner, and now it's in Eric's hands. And so we consult a lot on it, but it's always fun to sit down and go, okay, what have we not done? What have we done that people love and we have to do again? But we have to like kind of sprinkle that in, we have to hold it away from people a little bit. So we do a lot of pasta, a lot of just random stuff, hamburgers, fried chicken sandwich we did a couple weeks ago that was unbelievably good. We didn't sell enough of that one. I was like, I was really disappointed. I was like, man, people really missed out this week. We had a hit and we missed it. But Sunday dinners is always fun to see how it started, how chaotic it was in the very beginning, and how now it's just like a well-oiled machine where we have a couple planned out for the month and just kind of roll with it. And oftentimes we'll go, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's change it. Let's do something different. And so it really is a spur of the moment, kind of just whatever we feel like cooking that day, with some planning in ahead of it. But it's a lot of fun to do that.
I can already see whenever this episode comes out, people that listen to it, they're like, I got about halfway through this episode and I started getting really hungry.
I had to go eat Sunday dinner.
I was like, I had to stop what I was doing and go get some food, because I don't know, it's just it was funny. One of the first times I remember, because I follow you on Instagram, and you keep you post about what you're having, and And I thought it was funny. I don't remember, it may have been a couple months back, but I think you all were doing chicken parmesan. And it was like a couple days before, and you guys were like, hey, we're doing chicken parmesan on Sunday, someone first come, first serve, come, so on. And it was like, I think y'all start like 4:30, is that correct?
Yeah,
it was like, a post went up on your story at 4:30, it was like, now serving chicken parmesan. And then it was like 15 minutes later, it was like,
sold out.
We are out of chicken parmesan. Sorry if you didn't make it. I was like, man.
Yeah.
No luck on that end. I was like, man, that must have been a big hit.
There have been a couple of meals that we've done for Sunday dinner that literally, if you're not there when we serve it, you're not getting it. The first time we did cheeseburgers, we sold like 100 cheeseburgers in like 45 minutes, and I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I was not expecting this. It was like one of our biggest days ever. People were really excited about the cheeseburger. And it was, I mean, to be fair, it was a delicious cheeseburger.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, and I've, with just the way things are now, like everything is so digital, and like, you can get it's not easy to make a brick and mortar store for anything, across the board. But with just the nature of things now, like, I can Uber Eats anything from anywhere. You can buy anything and have it shipped to you in a couple of days. Like, this is just the world we live in.
Sure.
I imagine there were a lot of just hurdles and obstacles and stuff that you had to jump through and jump over in order to get to the point that you're at now.
Absolutely.
What was it like leading up to that? Because I'll have times where, I'm like, oh, this would be really cool to do this thing. Like, I would love to open this store someday or do this thing. And I'll get on the phone and be like, what's it like doing this? And it's like, well, it's very expensive. You have to hire a lot of people. The return is like a 1 to 2% margin, and you're not getting a lot of return on it. But if you do it for 40 years, then it's great.
Right. But do I want to do it for 40 years?
Okay. I don't know about that. And so whenever I see someone like yourself who, you're not like some big giant corporate backing, it's just you and what you've been doing for not a couple of years, like you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
But like you're a relatively small team compared to like, we use Subway, or like they've got all the money in the world to do whatever they want. They've got, I think they're actually the largest store, like restaurant in the United States. Like they have the most locations. So like, you compare those two, like what was that like for you leading up to the point where you initially decided to, go forward with the restaurant? Was there any like anxieties you had about that or?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Yeah, there definitely were, in hindsight, I think, and building the restaurant, so you're right. We don't have the financial backing of Subway.
Well, most people don't.
So when we started the food truck, I took a small, like as little loan as I could get, just because I'm so afraid of debt. I hate it. I want to be away from it. I don't want it. So we took as little as we could, built everything myself if I could do it. If it was out of my hands, I would find a friend. If I couldn't find a friend, then I'd pay somebody. And so I kind of did the same thing with the restaurant. I don't remember. I'm so bad at remembering dates and years, so I'll fumble all that if I try with it. But we ran the food truck for I think like 3.5, almost 4 years, and then went, okay, it's time. We've got to do something more than the food truck. I was kind of bored running the food truck, doing 4 or 5 events a month. And I was like, I was working for my dad. He owns a little print shop in Red Bank called Print Tree. So I was wrapping cars and making signs and doing that on the side, or kind of as my day job, and running the food truck at night or whenever I needed to be off or whatever. There was a point where I was like, okay, I've got to leave Print Tree and go 100% with the restaurant. So there was about a year where we had leased the building, and I was like just working, doing everything myself. I literally built the restaurant, like pretty much everything you walk in and see. I built it.
When you say you built it, you mean like the building itself?
So the building is old. It was built in the late 40s, I think. Which there's a cool story about the building. So I was driving down Dayton Boulevard. We had been looking for a place. We looked at there used to be a Thai restaurant in Red Bank. They were closing. I was pretty tight with Rosa, the owner, and she was like, if you want this place, we can make a deal. And she wanted a lot of money for it. And I was like, I don't know. We can't. And then I was driving home from work one day, and I saw the building. And I was like, that place looks interesting. How have I never noticed it before?
Yeah.
And I pulled in, looked around. It was empty. It was abandoned.
Yeah.
It was kind of falling apart. I looked in the windows. I'm like, this looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I went back to my truck. I was like, wait, I'm going to go see if it's unlocked.
Yeah.
So I went, and sure enough, it was unlocked. So I walked in and just kind of made myself at home. And as soon as I walked in the door, it was like, this seems like it's going to be something.
Yeah.
So we found someone. I've got a lot of friends in the banking world. And so I went to a couple of them and I was like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I don't know how I'm going to afford it, but I want it to happen. And so my friend Craig Miller hooked me up with a friend of his named Cleon Coleman. And Cleon and I met at Mean Mug. And
Also another great
place.
Yeah.
I'm there all the time.
Yeah.
Met at Mean Mug, and I kind of pitched him my idea for my restaurant, what we had been doing. And he was like, okay, cool. I'll be your landlord. This is great. I mean, like, we hit it off immediately.
Yeah.
And the relationship I had with him was so great. I mean, he basically was like, I'll buy the building. You lease from me.
Yeah.
We'll agree on a price. You can buy it from me when the lease is over. And basically that was, I could have ended that conversation, signed on the dotted line, and then talked to Cleon 5 years later. That's kind of how the relationship was. He trusted me to just do whatever we wanted at the building and let us treat it like it was ours. So that, I think that kind of took a lot of stress off of me as far as building goes, and just having a great landlord helped me so much. So we started, I'm kind of lost here. So I met with Cleon, he bought the building, and I immediately went to work. I mean, I just started pulling up the floors and tearing things down. And
having fun with it.
Just, absolutely. And then started building it. It took me about a year and a half, maybe 2 years to build everything, because I did most of it myself, except for like plumbing, electrical, things that are out of my wheelhouse. But all the wood on the walls, that was all milled from trees that fell from my grandparents' house up in Dayton. So they had this big piece of property, a big white oak would fall or a hemlock would fall, and my dad was like, I got to have that wood. So he'd hire a portable mill worker to come and saw up the wood, and he stored it in his barn for years. And so it's things like that, like over the years, that just all come together. So when you ask me, were there obstacles? Was it stressful? Yeah, absolutely. But everything happened so naturally. Right down to the way I was trained with my uncle, and then my other uncle has built wood-fired ovens. I think he said mine was either 15 or 16, number 15 or 16 that he had built. He's built several since then. So like all of these things that just led up to me being in the perfect position. So even when I was stressed, I'm stressed, but like things are hitting and things are clicking. And so we took out a small loan, built the food truck, took out a little bit bigger loan, started building the restaurant, ran out of money. That was the point where I was like, okay, now I'm stressed. I started getting ice pick headaches, which was the most painful thing I've ever had, which they're stress induced. I would just I'd go to work, I'd get my headache, I'd go home, take a nap, go back to work, and just did that for a few months until we really got over that hump. So there was a lot of speed bumps and hurdles and things to overcome through building the building process, just dealing with the few contractors that I had that worked for me. That was a whole different ballgame, because then things are really out of your hands. You're like, you got these plans, and things need to happen the way they need to happen, and then your contractor's like, oh yeah, well, we'll get there when we get there. I'm like, come on, man, you're killing me. So there was a lot of struggle and stress through that, but I dealt with it okay, I think. And all the while, I'm building, I'm working the food truck, and in the end goal is, or in my long-term vision is what you just described about how there's a community, there are people, they need a place like this. And as we were building, there was nothing in Red Bank. So the whole time while we were going through the stress and the struggle of trying to like pull it along, I had that in my forefront of we're doing this for a reason. I've been placed on this earth for a reason, and this is it. And so being able to take my passion for food and service and put that into construction and come out on the other side with a restaurant was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool thing to look back and go, I literally built this place with my hands, and now other people run it, and I stand here and kind of manage the restaurant, but I don't have to be the guy making the pizza or the guy running the oven or the person serving the table. So it's been totally worth it. All the stress and strife and speed bumps and roadblocks, all of that has been worth it to now look at it and go, this is what our goal was.
Yeah.
And we were determined to hit it. And here we are doing it. So yes, it was stressful.
Yeah.
It was hard. There were a lot of roadblocks with the city. And so you may have noticed when you came the first time, our front door is not actually our front door. So the front door faces Dayton Boulevard. But since we serve alcohol and there's a church next door, that front door was too close to the church. So the city was like, can't serve alcohol, or you can't use that door. So we moved the door like 50 feet to the right. So and we were good to go. So there were a lot of things like that with the city of Red Bank that we were like, well, it's easier here because there's not, it's not a bigger city like Chattanooga. But there were little obstacles that I was like, hey, Tim Thornberry, city manager, let's chat about this. Let's figure out how to get around these things. So they were really great about seeing an issue. Mm-hmm. The code says this. How do we go around the code? Mm-hmm. How do we figure out how to match the code, but get a workaround? So the city of Red Bank was really great to work with and helpful in those obstacles when we came on them. So there were only a few things that we really butted heads about that we still haven't fixed. But it's part of it. So
So, and you may have said this, so forgive me if you did, but how long now have you all been brick and mortar open?
December will be 5 years.
Okay.
Of course, yeah.
So you're still fairly young. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you did Local Slice prior to the building, but regarding the building, you're still fairly young, and you seem like you've kind of you've hit what you were aiming for.
Sure.
From the standpoint of like, you sell the product you want to sell. You're not there 90 hours a week making every pizza.
Nobody is. That's the beautiful thing of it is they all work so well together. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's so important. I feel like there are so many restaurants out there that it's like you work in the kitchen, you're here, and you don't leave until your job is done. Yeah. And our crew works so well together. There's such a team that doesn't happen. We don't have people. Eric works probably the most hours out of everybody. He and I and Brittany, but they're happy to do it. They're happy to be there. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. But
no, you're fine. That aids to the question I ask you is because, I'm sure you have aspirations and you're like, okay, we want to sell X amount of this and we want to get to this point by this year and so on and so forth. But by and large, it kind of seems like you've gotten to the point where you were hoping to get to.
Absolutely.
So my question for you is, have you ever considered expanding beyond just where you're at right now? Sure. Whether it be more locations or whether it be, okay, we're going to open up a chicken place over here. Or we're going to open up this place. Has that ever run across your mind?
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you do, I will be there.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, we've got customer number 1 in the books. We'll start a Resi account so you can make your first reservation. Yes. So we've talked a lot about it, and I love Cortile. It is. I have 3 children. Cortile, Otis, and Felix. And so to be able to replicate that and do it to the degree with which I would be satisfied because Red Bank works so well. I don't know.
Tough.
It would be really hard. We've talked about moving the restaurant to a different location and opening a different place. That was years ago. That was a silly idea. I'm glad we didn't do anything like that. But we've had opportunities and people have come to us and been like, hey, come to Signal Mountain. We get that all the time. People desperately want something on Signal Mountain. So I'm glad Jason Bowers is doing something up there. That's a good fit for him. But we've talked a lot about it. There are some things in the works that we're not quite ready to share about.
That's fine.
Yes, we are planning on expanding in not Cortile. We won't do another Cortile yet. I think there's definitely. I have a lot of growing and learning to do before I feel like I can really execute this like we're doing again. And people go, oh yeah, I went to the one in the Red Bank and it's just like that one. Like if we do that, we have to come out of the gates swinging hard, and so I wouldn't want to miss. But with that said, Red Bank is such a hop in place right now that there's lots of great opportunities. So we're excited to be doing something soon. But not ready to share yet.
No, that's exciting. In two things. I know one, like me asking that is very simple for me to be like, oh, are you going to open up those?
Sure.
But one, it's hard enough as it is to open up any business, let alone one in the restaurant industry where things have notoriously always been fast paced and it's not something you can just do kind of casually.
Yeah, you can't just wing it.
So I know that would not be an easy thing to do, but also something that I am a big believer in is, yes, like grow and do as much as you can. If you've got huge aspirations, go and shoot for it. But also I think it's okay to like, if what you want to do is run a pizza shop,
absolutely,
and you do that,
well, that's the community part of it, right? You're servicing those around you. You're not looking to make $1 million a year. You're part of the community, and you're helping bring equity to the town. I mean, and that was our goal at Cortile. And I grew up in church. Stuart Heights Baptist has been my home for a long time since I was a kid. And I've always been involved in like the service aspect of it. I mean, in the youth group, I was always right with the youth pastor, David Iverson. I was his youth intern. I graduated high school and worked there at the church. I worked there for years after. So my training in service came from the church and just seeing people just give and give and give without question. And that is, when you go to any restaurant and your server is there to serve you and give you and provide to you and help you have a great experience. I mean, that's literally what I grew up doing. So to be able to take what I learned in church and just working with those great dudes and those leaders has really just given me a passion for doing those same things, but outside the church. Like I used to say that pizza was our vehicle to people because it literally was. But now I see my role less as servicing the people at my restaurant and making sure that my restaurant employees are serviced and taken care of. So if I can do that, if we can provide a place for our employees that really takes care of them, then they're just going to naturally do it. And you said it. One of the first things you said was when you walked in for the first time, you felt like you were at a neighbor's house, your friend's house. And so those people at the restaurant treat you like you're their friend. And I do think that stems from my leadership of we have to take care of people. At the end of the day, we are here to take care of people. There's a great poem by Walt Whitman. I'm not going to be able to remember the name, but it's all about how terrible and hard life is. And you trudge along and you're in these crowds of people who are just miserable and every day is the same and you just go through it and you just work and you work and you work and things are hard. And then the last line of the verse of the poem says something like, but you're here and you have the ability to change that for yourself. It's within you. You are the only one that can do that. And you can do that for other people. And you do it through serving and through helping and providing. And so that has always been kind of my drive is the service aspect of things. While I'm passionate about food, I'm a terrible server. If you've ever been to the restaurant and you've had a super awkward dude serving your tables, that's me. I'm the owner. And I'll usually say, sorry, I'm terrible at this. So, but I love to talk to people and meet people and to support my staff to be able to do that well because I'm not good at it. I can make a pizza, I can run the oven, but I want people to be just taken care of and really feel like they are. So that service side of things is kind of that is what I'm passionate about for sure. Even though food is my first love,
Well, I think it's really interesting too how you approach it from the standpoint of what did you say? Like like pizza is the vehicle to the people or something like that. Like, I think it's really cool because I know I've said it before, but I don't know. I can see it, just you talking about it and just being there. I just think it's really interesting that you're taking it from an approach of it's definitely, the best way I can describe it is definitely a passion project. You're not just doing this because, this is a great market to be in and we make a lot of money.
It's way too hard for it to not be passionate about it.
This is the perfect time to do this because this is on the up and up and people are really like, people like pizza and people go to restaurants all the time, but it's more than just that. And I just think that's really, really interesting because it shows very, very quickly. I think it shows. I remember whenever I was there, one of the last times I was there, there was someone that like brought a dog and like people were just at different I don't know if they knew them or not.
Probably not.
I don't know if they knew them or not, but they were just like having a good time, just chatting and petting the dog and having all this stuff. And I remember I saw later, like someone put a video of it on their story. And so you all posted, I was like, this is like, I got to witness all this happen. Like it was just, it was a cool moment in time where you had to be there. People were just being, having a good time with each other, having these, intimate interactions where it was just purely to be with people you like to be around, even if I don't even know if they knew them or not. But it was really cool just seeing people interact like that. And to me, I was like, that really seems to be the spirit of this restaurant to a degree.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I do want to ask you, which I've only seen at Cortile is, which I personally like it, is you all have smaller than normal pizzas, at least. Like, to compare it to another restaurant in town, another great restaurant is Pizza Bros right down the street. They have very big pizzas. They're very, very big pizzas. Now, they're really good.
Sure.
They're very big pizzas. But the ones at Cortile, they're almost like, for me, it's a
personal size.
Like, for me, a larger than average male individual, it is definitely a single, a me pizza.
Right.
And so, what was the idea behind that? I don't know if you all were going for like, we're gonna serve this like single person pizza. But I think it's really interesting because the reason I asked that and said is because every time me and my fiance go there, we always get different ones. And like, even though I've only been 4 or 5 times, I've probably had 15 pizzas now. Because she'll get one and I'll get one. It's like, we want to try this. And like, we'll bring a friend with us.
Share.
And that's such, I don't know. I think it's a really cool experience because I'm a big food advocate. I love food. And be able to try those different ones and not have to spend $80 on 3 massive pizzas. I think that's awesome. So I was curious, what was the idea behind that?
We based our food on Neapolitan pizza, so traditional Italian pizza, and that's kind of how they do there. It's just you order a pizza, you eat your pizza, you use a fork and knife and cut it up and eat it. And then on top of that, we were on a food truck, and it's really hard to. I'm not gonna say it's really hard, but it was more difficult for us to try and make a big pizza and sell slices, even though our name was Local Slice, which confused everyone always. So we used to sell smaller pizzas. They were 10 inches. And then when we opened at the restaurant, I was like, we should do a little more. But what you just said about sharing and kind of just being involved with your mate that you're with eating dinner, if you guys can share the meal, then that opens up the community even more. And so you got a big plate of food or a big table with food and 5 or 6 people around it sharing all that food, handing it back and forth. It's so intimate. And one of my favorite dishes that we have on the menu is our burrata with the puffy bread. When we go to a table, we're like, hey, stab that puffy bread, let the steam come out, and then just tear into it with your hands. And I feel like eating with your hands kind of takes people off guard, and it relaxes you a little bit. And it's already pizza and wings, so I mean it's all finger food. So if you're eating with your hands and you're having a good time with your pals, I mean that to me is one of my favorite things to do, is just sit at a big table with all my friends and dig in and have a good time and experience. And so that's kind of the gist of our menu, is to encourage people to eat with their hands and share with their friends and just enjoy themselves.
That's awesome. So, and that was the thing. I was very excited about it because I love pizza. And I'm always struck. I'm like, we gotta. if it's just me and like another person, we may get like one big pizza. I'm like, okay, this is good. But I'm like, I kind of want to try the other.
I wanted some other stuff.
Yeah. And so like the first time I went there, I was like, oh my gosh, we can get two for around the same price, and I get to try yours just because we're here.
Right.
One thing I do want to know. So I think one of the last times I went there. Whenever I saw it, I was like, I have to try this. It was I don't know if it was like a special or if it's like a part of the menu or not, but it was like a Philly cheesesteak pizza with like the cheese whiz on top of it. And I was like, that looks interesting. I want to try that.
Yeah. So, that came from a lot of times on if we have any leftovers whatsoever, or if we think it would make a good pizza.
Yeah.
So like the Philly cheesesteak, I'm sure we sold out of Philly cheesesteaks because. And by the way, we're doing that this Sunday. So if you're interested in Philly cheesesteak, this Sunday, tomorrow. We'll take kind of the leftovers, or like I said, if we think it's a great idea for a pizza, and kind of run with it. And that's where that came from. Was like we ate the sandwiches and we were like, we've got to make this on pizza, and we've got to put fake cheese whiz on top.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
It was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. I do want to ask though. So what is your personal, like, if you're going to get a pizza, whether you have it on the menu or not, what's your like go-to pizza?
That's an easy answer. I eat it all the time. More than cheese, add pepperoni, and sometimes jalapenos. So more than cheese pizza is when my wife and I went to Italy 5 or 6 years ago, and one of the pizzas I had was just a straight marinara pizza. So it was red sauce or crushed tomatoes, garlic, oregano, and oil, salt, and that was it. And so I was like, we should do this on a food truck. And then I was like, nobody's going to eat a no cheese pizza from a food truck. So I was like, let's add fresh mozzarella to it. And that's where the more than cheese came from. And then I love pepperoni pizza. So we have these little cup and curl pepperonis that get nice and charred in the oven and nice and greasy, and I just think it's the best. It's salty, and the cheese we use grande fresh mozzarella cheese, which is some of the best you can get, and so I think that pizza is almost perfect.
It sounds wonderful.
It's one of my favorites, and it like I usually don't think, I need to eat, but if I'm really hungry, I don't even think. I just go make one of those pizzas or some wings, because they're also delicious. So
one more thing I want to ask you before we kind of start wrapping things up here. So you talked, we talked a little bit about just if you would ever consider opening any other kind of restaurant, whether it be, Pizzeria Cortile number 2, or like, we're going to do something totally different, over at this place, whatever. And you alluded to a couple different things. For you personally, what do you hope the future looks like for Pizzeria Cortile? Whether it's 5, 10, 15 years down the road, what do you hope it looks like? Is it just continuing where you're at right now and just continuing to feed into the community and do that? Or what is it of what you can share? Obviously, a couple secret things you have going on in the background. So I'm not trying to.
Not at all. Yeah, for sure.
But what do you hope the future of it looks like?
Honestly, just like it does now. I mean, like I said before, when we started the food truck, it was obvious immediately that this is not the end game, and being out in the community with the truck, meeting people, doing that thing, that was great. But now that we have a permanent place where people can always find us, and they always know that it's going to be exactly like they expect, and they're going to be welcomed with a smiling face, and just an atmosphere that they can hang and feel comfortable. I mean, I feel like we've achieved it, and we were doing that. So my hope is that we just continue to do that and continue to be better at servicing our community and the people within. So you asked if we're planning on expanding, and I totally didn't even think about this, but yes, we are expanding. For the last 6 months or so, I've been rebuilding the food truck, and we are going to take it over to the Book and Cover in Riverview.
I love the Book and Cover.
Yeah. So my cousin is Emily Lilly, one of the owners there.
Really?
And so crazy. She called me. She was like, "I've got this idea for a bookshop. What do you think about it?" I was like, "That sounds awesome."
That's genuinely one of my favorite places.
It's so cool. It's such a great place, and it's so unique, and they do such a good job of just making it cool and a cool. I mean, it's the same kind of feel as at Cortile. When you walk in there, you're like, oh, this is a cool place. I just want to be here. And so we're going to put the food truck in their back parking lot, kind of as a permanent, semi-permanent fixture, depending on kind of the way it goes. But I'm really excited to put it over there and kind of expand into that neighborhood without having to go we're going to do a second restaurant.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we can we're still going to use all the same folks from the restaurant. The same cooks are going to be cooking the food. The same servers are going to greet you at the window. So we're hoping to just kind of make that a big rotation of staff that is just a real extension of the restaurant. So so you get a little glimpse of what we do on the food truck. It'll be nice to kind of have that little advertiser out there for us. Like, hey, you like this? Come on over to Red Bank and have a beer with us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's crazy. You mentioned that you're related to one of the owners. Genuinely, Book and Cover is one of my other favorite places in the Chattanooga area. I remember we went there. It may have been opening day. I know it was like the week they opened. I don't know if it was the opening day or not. But I remember walking in, I was like, this place is really unique. Like, I had never been to, there's a couple bookstores in town, but I was like, this is just a really cool, like sometimes I would go back on my lunch break and I wouldn't even get a book. I would just get like a coffee and just walk around. Like, okay, see ya. Just walk out. And I wasn't sure if they were ever like, is this guy going to buy anything or what's he doing? But I would just kind of get some coffee and walk around and be like, okay, that was pretty cool. And just go back to work after that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I will definitely, trust me, if you are gonna be at the Book and Cover in the future, I'll be there. Whether it's for the books or for the pizza.
Right, for sure. Both. Come get a book and or come get a pizza and read a book. We're hoping. We're basically waiting on the health department to give us the okay on the inspection, and we'll be over there. So it should just be a few weeks from now, and we'll be ready to rock.
That's awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, we've been going for just about an hour now, and I don't want to take too much of your time, any longer. But we do have, I say we, like I've got like
the whole staff over here.
I found that I do that now for whatever reason. Like
I do it too. I'm talking about me, and people are like, "Oh, we? Is there a partner?" I mean, I'm like, "Oh, no, my wife," but she didn't want anything to do with it.
Like here on the show, we like to do that. Like, we being me. But something I like to do to end each show, just in a spirit of fun and just kind of in a little bit of a different direction, is I like to play a little segment called 15 Quick Questions.
Okay.
So it's 15 questions. They're all this or that questions. So, it'll be either A or B. And I just want to hear off the top of your head what your answers are. So these are entirely unrelated to Pizzeria Cortile. Everything. These are just out of left field questions. I want to hear what your thoughts are. So, you ready to play?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. This is 15 Quick Questions.
Let's do it.
Do you pronounce it caramel or caramel?
Caramel.
Do you prefer hot coffee or iced coffee? And if you're not a coffee drinker, you can substitute
hot
tea.
Coffee.
Gotcha.
Hot coffee.
Okay. Summer, fall, winter, or spring?
Fall.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I might know the answer to this, but sweet or savory food?
Savory.
No, that's what I was expecting. Socks with sandals, yes or no?
Ooh, that's weird. That takes me back to like middle school days. Like toe socks and sandals, I can't do it.
Gotcha. I am curious about this one. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I figured yes, considering
there are no wrong pizza toppings.
I was about to say, considering I had a pizza from you all that had cheese whiz on, I think
that's right.
That suffices. Sunrise or sunset?
Ooh, depends on the day, but it depends on the place I'm at.
Yeah.
So, but I would say sunrise.
I agree. Guacamole or salsa?
Another tough one. I
really
don't know if I can choose. That's salsa. I think salsa. Salsa is my go-to. Chips and salsa and light beer is like a perfect snack for me. That's
if you had to vacation in one of these two spots, would you choose at the beach or at the mountains?
Mountains.
Nice. Crunchy or creamy peanut butter?
Crunchy.
I'm curious about this one. New York style pizza or deep dish? For you personally.
Okay, so we have to qualify. What do you mean by deep dish?
So that's a good question.
Are we talking like Chicago deep dish? Or are we talking Roman style or Detroit style?
I'll do this. I'll change up the question just a little bit.
Okay.
I've never actually had Chicago style. I would like to try it sometime. But it looks interesting.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you to rank these three.
Okay.
New York style, Chicago style, and Detroit style. Because I know New York style is different than like Chicago and Detroit are similar, but there are some differences.
Yeah. So rank those. I'm going Detroit, New York, Chicago, and I've never had Chicago,
really?
So I don't like I can't really speak to that.
Yeah.
But it looks like a casserole, not a pizza. That's all. I mean, I'm going to offend a lot of people. We just lost a huge customer base.
They said, no, we're not going to.
They're never going to serve our business.
That's hilarious. That's funny. Okay. In your mind, who wins in a dance battle, The Rock or Kevin Hart?
Kevin Hart.
Which decade do you prefer, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Man. I mean, I remember the 90s the best, and I wasn't alive for the 70s, so I'm going 90s.
All right, final 2 questions. Christmas, Thanksgiving, or Halloween?
Christmas.
Nice. And then the last question, I asked this to everyone. This is a constant with the show, and I want to hear your rationale with it. Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck?
1 duck-sized... Wait, say it again.
Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized...
1 horse-sized duck.
Yeah.
1 horse-sized duck.
So what's your logic behind that?
In my field, I have a lot of distractions. So if I'm focused on this thing over here and that one grabs me, then I'm lost from this thing over here. So
if there's a bunch of tiny horses, you're going to get
I'm going to be overwhelmed. They can attack me from all sides. But if I can focus on the one big problem, then I'm good to go.
That's funny. I like it. That's awesome. Well, that was 15 quick questions. I appreciate you playing along. I know some of them are a little silly.
No, I like it.
I think they're fun.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, before we wrap up, I know that I know you'll have a website, and I'll make sure that's included down in the description. And I know you are on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure those are down there. So if you're listening, you want to check it out. First and foremost, if you're in the area, go to the restaurant and check it out. Definitely. But if you can't, also check out the website and their Instagram. But do you have any other links or anything that I can include in the description?
No, I think that's it. At Pizzeria Cortile on all social media, and then pizzeriacortile.com. That's pretty much it.
Awesome.
I'm terrible at social media, so there's a girl that works for us that does it, and I'm like, thank you so much, Francis. She's young and hip and does a great job with it. So
that's awesome. Yeah. That's great. Well, I'll make sure those are included on there. So if you're listening and you're in the Chattanooga area, or if you're not in the Chattanooga area, if you're feeling real frisky and you want to make the travel, definitely go check them out. I genuinely, it's my favorite pizza in Chattanooga. No shade to any other pizza places. I've had a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I love what y'all do. I think y'all are doing great, and I think you have some great food. So
thank you very much.
Keep up the great work. Thanks for taking a little bit of time to chat with me today, and it's been a pleasure, man.
Absolutely. Same here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. To all those that are out there listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll catch you on another episode of the show later. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the podcast. As one final reminder, if you'd like to support the show, then don't forget to rate and review the show wherever you get your podcast, or share it with a friend. If you'd like to check out any links that were mentioned during the show, or follow the show or myself on social media, then feel free to head to the description of today's episode to find these links. As always, thank you again for checking out today's episode, and I really hope you enjoyed it. I will catch you all on the next episode of the podcast. See ya!